Welcome to Radio Psychotropia, cinema for the criminal in you.
Hello and welcome to Radio Psychotropia. I'm your host, Robert Black, and with me is Conrad Del Bianco.
Hey, pod people.
And today we go into the time vortex with Idaho Transfer. A dystopia or anti-utopia is a community or society that is in some significant manner undesirable or frightening. It is the opposite of a utopia. Such societies appear in many artistic works, particularly in stories set in a distant future. Dystopias are often characterized by dehumanization, totalitarian governments, environmental disaster, or other characteristics associated with a cataclysmic decline in society. Dystopian societies appear in many subgenres of fiction, but for the purpose of this podcast, we're tackling cinematic science fiction. They are often used to draw attention to real-world issues regarding society, environment, politics, economics, religion, psychology, sociology, ethics, science, and/or technology, which if unaddressed could potentially lead to such a dystopia-like condition. Peter Fonda's 1973 film, Idaho Transfer, from a script by Thomas Mathiasson, has many of these themes. Mr. Del Bianco, can you give us a synopsis of Idaho Transfer, please?
Sure thing, Robert. Teenager Karen Braden is a troubled mental hospital outpatient who is taken by her father, George, and sister, Isa, to a government facility near the Craters of the Moon lava fields in Idaho. Lovely Idaho. The project there was commissioned to develop matter transference, but made a different discovery: time travel. They also discovered that a mysterious ecological catastrophe will soon wipe out civilization. So, impending doom. The time travel process has negative health effects, though. Adults not much older than 20 are unable to survive it for long, as their kidneys hemorrhage shortly after the experience. So the scientists decide to only send young people 56 years into the future so they can build a new civilization. After the government takes over the project, the transfer machines are turned off, trapping a large number of project members in the future. Now trapped, they begin exploring the future world.
As soon as you get in, rule number 1, lock the door. And rule number 2, take off your clothes.
Sounds familiar.
Ooh, these pants are a bitch.
Why do we have to wear this stuff anyway?
Oh, they're good in the lavas. You'll see when we get there. Can't wear anything heavy or anything with zippers. Nothing metallic. Cleve left his sunglasses on once. When he transferred, almost ripped his ears off. Okay, never ever try to transfer anything more than this. Socks are okay though. Understand?
Mr. Peter Fonda decides to produce a dystopian science fiction film which tackles a lot of environmental concerns at the beginning of the environmental activism era.
The hippie era.
Well, At the time, this didn't exactly resonate with the public. It was pretty new. We start off with visiting this facility, which looks like a large basement in the middle of a desert. We're introduced to Isa and her sister Karen.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not quite sure why the film concentrates on these two, but we're led to believe that there are only young people in this facility and one technician that's over the age of 30. And this is some sort of secret government program.
Got a problem with that, though.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a secret government program, why isn't it run by the government? Because the government goes and checks on it every once in a while, but they don't seem to know what the hell's going on there.
Correct. They should always have officials there to document everything that goes on. I mean, if you have a machine that can travel through time, I would assume that such a machine would be under lock and key at all times and would be heavily guarded.
It would be
right?
guarded by the military.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking heavy ordnance
Yeah,
here.
they didn't seem to have a presence.
The entire facility seems like it's abandoned. We're only introduced to two people, then we're introduced to a third later on, and then to a technician, which there's really no clue that this man is a technician other than he has a toolbox filled with tools that date back, 20 years? Nothing that would fix a time machine.
Well, the tools that he has are tools that any guy you hire to do renovations on your bathroom would have.
Right.
All right. So he's got like a hammer. I think there's chisels and screwdrivers and things like that. I imagine screwdrivers would work on a time machine. But I mean, seriously, some of the stuff that was in there, it looks like a crude, jack of all trades.
It looks like a
toolbox.
Handyman toolbox.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a technician's toolbox. Something, or it doesn't look like a computer
I like this
programmer's.
film, Conrad. Thematically, I think there's a lot of food for thought in there. The execution and what constitutes art direction in this film, I don't know if they had any budget for that at all, or if they smoked the budget after they shot the film. I'm not certain, or maybe before they shot the film, possibly, yes. But there's really nothing here to prove the existence of a time machine. It looks like a giant air conditioner. There's nothing here to prove that these young people, assumably 19,
They're
20 years old, something like that.
Late teens, early 20s, whatever.
Right. That they're qualified to be selected by the government to go into the future to repopulate the planet.
But that's not the government's agenda. That's their father's agenda, George Braden. His agenda is he's basically discovered this echo crisis,
Right.
that occurs sometime in the future that wipes out either a whole area or the whole nation. They don't really establish that, and so he's keeping the whole thing under wraps. It's his idea to start this Genesis project where he's going to send Adam and Eve into the future and repopulate. And apparently all these kids are super qualified. One's a botanist, one's a young genius engineer, whatever. They all have the skills to pay the bills, but the government.
We don't see any example of any of this, though.
Well, they talk about it a little bit. You don't
Just
see
a little
examples.
bit.
Yeah, they talk a bit about one of they actually mention a couple of things. The problem with the film on a production value, from a production value standpoint, is that it doesn't have any. It doesn't. The time machine looks cheap. The lighting's all fluorescent, so it's just the worst god awful lighting you could ever have. The walls are all white. They could have at least had some kind of technical jargon, or at least some lines painted on the walls to this way to laboratory, this way to transfer station, just to give it something of a look of the future, or at least a look of a facility that's professional and working on something. The only splashes of color we see are on fire extinguishers and the girl with the yellow pants. You know, like it's. I thought they could have all used jumpsuits at least with, let's say, Idaho Transfer or something on the back. Some
That would have made sense.
just to give
However,
it a uniform look. You know.
However, there is a suggestion here that George is running a covert operation. The government does not know that the device can do time travel,
That's right.
and he's keeping everything hush hush. There's really no exploration of this theme. How many times do we even see George in the film?
Well, we see him right in the beginning, and he's inside an office that looks like a construction trailer. Right? If you've ever been
That's
to
right.
any construction site and gone into a trailer, that's what it looks like. Wooden walls with just, nothing.
Right. And where's his typewriter? There's no typewriter on the desk. It's 1973. Everyone had a typewriter.
Yeah, because you didn't have computers.
Right.
So they had to type that shit out. Or was he writing in longhand? If he's a doctor or a scientist,
He would have a board in a chalkboard in the background with facts and figures on it.
Yeah.
We don't even see that there. Every scientist has that.
Did you notice what was up in the medical lab?
Not a hell of a lot, from what I recall.
Well, there were a few posters of anatomy and things
Right.
like that. Remember where Karen was getting her braces taken out?
Right, taking out.
When you
yeah.
look over Dr. Lewis's shoulder, there's a Frankenstein poster on the wall.
Right. Well, that was
That makes
interesting.
fucking sense.
Well, it's basically telling you the man
It's
has
all-
aspirations to be to bring back the dead. Maybe he can resuscitate the film.
Is this what, or maybe that's the sense of humor of this doctor? That he's like a mad doctor.
Yeah, but the guy's a boring stiff.
Yeah,
He doesn't really.
he's taking
do
out
much.
braces in what is
Yeah.
clearly not a dentist's facility. It's just his office with a really comfortable chair. You're sitting in this really comfortable chair, and then do something very painful to you.
Yes.
But you'll be fine because there's Frankenstein on the wall. That's
And you can look at Frankenstein while I scope
and
your
the anatomy of an anus right there behind you on another drawing.
Mm-hmm. And you have nothing to be worried about
Nothing to be worried about.
at all.
I've done this before.
Yes.
Yeah, on myself, just to test it out. I was on PCP at the time, but
But
it all worked out.
I got it from a guy named Peter.
Yeah, I was fond of Peter. Yes. Okay, so right from the beginning, the first scene is tagging snakes, right?
Right.
You catch them, you tag them, and bag them. I don't know what they do with them after, but they record the length
Right.
because they're into that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're tagging snakes. There's a little bit of lush vegetation meets barren wasteland.
Right.
If you notice, there were trees and greenery, and then there was this, like, I don't know, where were they trying to study? The wasteland?
They were
Where the
probably
wasteland
trying
meets
to. Yeah, they
trees?
were trying to study the. I guess the environmental impact of some sort of devastating cataclysmic event on the environment, and they were tagging these snakes. Perhaps they're going to retrieve them at a later date. And yeah, they're going through the flora and fauna of the desert, or what there is.
Right. Okay, so then they go into a long, boring shot, which follows this girl to the time machine, Karen. She gets in, no, not Karen, Issa. She gets in, undresses, flips switches, and she's gone. I may have covered this before, but why they pause the opening credits and music for this is beyond me. Okay, but anyway, that's what they decided to do. She reappears in another room, stark white, with unimpressive time machine equipment. Okay.
A time machine that looks like an air conditioner.
Yeah.
Right?
If for some reason you seem to think that's an air conditioner.
It looks like an air conditioner to me.
Okay. Good. All right. Fluorescent lighting, which was pretty blah. All right. She emerges from this room into a hallway and she has a short exchange with some dude. I can't remember what his name is, but and she finds out her sister has arrived and is in her father's office. Okay. She takes a thermos of some chocolate beverage. Okay. And I don't know the significance of why they only have chocolate and vanilla as beverages, but That never gets really explained. And it's off to Daddy's office. Okay. So she gets to Dad's office, which I described as a construction trailer.
Without any typewriters, right?
No typewriters, just a couple of, I don't know, posters, and I think there's a calendar on the wall.
Even his desk is quite barren.
Oh, it's plain Jane. It doesn't even look like it's part of the facility. It's got wooden walls. All the rest of the facility all has white walls. Right. Somehow his trailer, sorry, his office.
There was no attempt to even dress up
No.
the office to look like an official from the government.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They talk. She is to brief her sister Karen on the project. Okay, but warned not to freak her out. Okay, so right now, finally, you have my attention. Okay, because I want to know what the hell.
Right.
What's
We're
this warning
engaged.
about? Yeah, I'm engaged. Okay. Sister Karen gets her braces removed, and why is there a Frankenstein poster on the doctor's office? I don't know, but that's how he comforts his patients.
Yeah, that's what they really want to see, is a Frankenstein poster on the wall.
Yeah. The next scene is they drive through the wasteland, okay, and then dinner at sister's place. It's a weird scene. They start off their dialogue while the truck that they're in is driving down the highway, and the dialogue doesn't skip a beat between that and the next scene when they're sitting at a table.
Right.
So we're led to believe that that's all one long
Yeah,
conversation.
that conversation continued
right
to the
half a
dinner table.
Yeah.
where half the dinner is consumed.
Where is your pacing? I mean, okay, so that made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen too often in films, I've noticed, but when it does, man, does it ever stand out. So we find out that Dad, okay, George, wants to transport a group of teenage scientists to the future to start over. Okay? Genesis Project. Genesis. And as he dodges the government's questions into the project, we find out he's trying to bypass this thing called an echo crisis. All right? Which I thought was a better name for the film.
Right. I believe the film at some point was retitled as Terminal City or something.
I thought
like
it was
that.
Where Worlds Collide, or Where Worlds, I don't know.
Meet.
Something
Something like that.
with worlds.
Yeah.
And
Well, there was
where?
something. Terminal something sounds better.
You're thinking
But-
of Terminal Velocity.
Well, yeah, but at some point the film was retitled as Terminal something.
Yeah.
And that just sounds
Transfer
better
is
to
not
me.
that bad, but it doesn't really indicate that there's anything going on.
Well, it indicates that it's set in Idaho, that exciting state
Yes.
in the Union, and we know there's some sort of transfer going on.
This could be all about this could be read off a bus ticket.
Right.
Yeah. But Echo Crisis. Now that's cool. So Dad can't come to the future. He can't go there. He's discovered it. Can't go there because anyone over 20 has.
That
this,
leads to a question, Conrad.
Okay.
If he's discovered this machine, okay, and it
Or
works,
he
Okay.
developed it, I imagine, but
he discovered this process, I should
Okay,
say,
yeah.
and he invented the machine. If he can't himself travel back and forth in time, who did he use to test it, and how did he test it while he was finalizing the design?
Certainly he wouldn't have put kids first. He would have had some kind of older scientist to go and because it just doesn't occur to you, right?
Right.
So someone died.
Obviously, yeah.
Someone sacrificed themselves to save us.
So he came up with a magical age, okay, where you're unaffected by time travel. Older than that, your kidneys rupture.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah.
You die somehow. Horribly.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't know how they discovered it. They don't go into that. The next scene, they're back on the road again. All right. They discuss romance, and Karen drops a bomb about recently being raped.
That's very interesting, how that comes about, and it's very abrupt. It gives the film a very uncomfortable feel at this point.
Well, what made me uncomfortable about it was her sister's reaction to it, which was
Absolutely no reaction.
no reaction
whatsoever.
Now, you're my brother. You tell me you've just been raped.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. But yeah, I would have some kind of reaction. I would be like, what?
Who the hell?
At least what? At least the question. What?
Yeah, what
did
the
you
hell
like,
went on?
What? You know, like this is like an emotion, especially for
A very
the same
young
for
woman,
guys
yeah.
as it would be for girls. But I imagine girls would be quite emotional about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they just seem to be like flatliners.
Yeah, there's really no reaction.
There's no reaction, so that also kind of bothered me right away. This is only in the maybe the first 15 minutes of the film.
Mm-hmm.
that happened. So that didn't get addressed. I thought, okay, so are people in this future like numb to this kind of talk? I don't get it.
Well, there's also another character in the film that reacts in a similar manner. We're going to tackle that later on, but I think you know, Conrad, which character I'm talking about. It just seems to me certain characters in this film, I don't know if it's the end result or the side effect from transferring into the future and perhaps returning. It would seem that your emotions are systematically removed because these characters don't seem to react to stimuli anymore.
I got a shorter answer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Bad acting.
Right.
Or you can blame it on the director too. I mean, he didn't notice that.
You know what I think, Conrad? I think that scene was ad-libbed on the spot. It would explain the reaction or the non-reaction from the other character. There's really no other explanation I can come up for it. It's just an odd, abrupt scene.
Yeah. So they find out that the transfer takes you 56 years into the future. That's some of the information that the sisters relay to each other. And there's not another human around. They find empty buildings or whatever. They don't find any...
It seems that the future is exactly the same as the past. The desert looks the same.
Looks exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. Except there's less people, but... You know.
There was no people back in the past either. But, yeah, we just have to take their word for it that they're in the future.
Yeah. So next thing they do is they meet some hitchhikers slash hippies slash gypsies. They have this one little short scene just talking to them, and apparently these kids are just, you know, they're all going to go to Burning Man or something.
Well, whatever the hell they had
The
back in
precursor to Burning Man.
1973, yeah.
Yeah.
Another Woodstock.
They just called it Bonfire back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonfire peyote.
We're just going to go to the
party.
beach and do some peyote.
Beach blanket bingo. And they arrive at the transfer station and prep for travel.
Mm-hmm.
And like for something so complex as a time machine, time travel machine, you would think there would be more safety control. Instead, you know, there's that red line we discussed. You cannot.
Not only more safety control, Conrad, you would think that there would be people standing by.
A technician to send
just
them
in
off.
case,
Yeah.
right? Just in case. I mean,
look at
Jesus
Star
Christ,
Trek, right?
Star Trek would have one or two technicians there.
In the transporter room.
Right.
Yeah.
To make sure that everything went according to plan.
Well, also to make sure that in case an alien zapped in, they'd have someone to kill right away. someone in a red shirt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the red shirts. Yeah, there are no red shirts in this film.
There's no red shirts.
But, you know.
No communist propaganda. Nothing. None of that.
Well, there's a bit of communist propaganda, but yeah.
Yeah, it's in
Oh,
the
a little
subtext.
bit. Yeah.
You have to read the subtext.
Yeah. Buried in the subtext. Yeah.
Buried. Okay, so there is there's the red line, okay, that you cannot cross during travel.
Mm-hmm.
and the area around the machine is significantly bigger than that of the receiver machine. Yet they both do the same function. They can receive and send. Okay. So I don't get it. I just like this is I'm still like what the fuck. I kept writing it down in my notes. WTF? Like what? Okay.
We just know that they straddle the machine in the beginning. That's all.
We find out that the mechanical workings of this machine are awesomely complex and require regular tunings from a specialized engineer. Okay?
Right.
I think the guy's name was Evans, but I can't.
Well, we have established that the machine is a giant vibrator, right?
yes,
Yeah.
Right? They transfer and they arrive in the future. They talk about having kids. Boring. This was all boring. Okay? And they were tempted to kidnap the gypsy couple from earlier.
Yeah.
They actually have this conversation. Why didn't we? And then why didn't we ask them to join us? And the sister says it's too dangerous. Karen wonders how long they will live, the gypsy couple, because of the impending doom, the echo crisis. And the Issa says they don't matter anymore. Basically
Only we
shutting
matter,
it out of her mind, like they're already dead to her, since she knows what the future holds. Okay, wish I did.
Again, that disconnect that I talked about earlier, that character, there's a disconnect there. There's no empathy from that particular character.
They walk to the next checkpoint when Issa trips and hurts herself. Okay, so Karen decides they're going to go back to the time machine and look for one of the dudes that's there, one of the other guys. Issa lays down and passes out. Right? Somehow Karen gets her into the time machine, like down that ladder. Okay, and prepped for transfer. Okay, this is the only time they didn't actually we didn't actually watch two people undress again.
Right.
Right, for no apparent reason. And as they transfer, Issa is limp, and it just rolls off the bench.
Yeah.
Okay, and beyond.
That's
the
a serious
line.
problem right there.
Yeah.
Why didn't Karen hold on to her?
Because you can't. You only touch
That's
your
right.
own knees.
So in other words, her body started to vibrate. She was passed out.
Which also doesn't make sense because they're sitting so close together, even on
Right.
the first time they transfer, that they're surely like their legs are touching the back. Like
Yeah.
they're close enough that they're touching.
They're very close.
So
right.
why couldn't she hold her? It's
Yeah.
an emergency situation. She doesn't know. Like Anyway, so
But why not just lay her down behind her?
I have no idea, man. Like I mean, within the line, why do you even have to be on the bench? Couldn't you just sit
Correct.
on the middle
Just-
on either
yeah,
side?
on the floor. Just make sure that it's
Yeah.
within the enclosed area.
She knows that the body is limp, that she can't keep her body upright during the transfer.
And when she falls off the bench,
Yeah.
she doesn't just fall on the floor. She falls on the floor
And rolls.
keeps rolling
Yeah. Yeah,
out of the space.
that's right.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, she had to make it all the way through.
Yeah, all the way
those
through,
3
yeah,
feet,
yeah,
all the
through
way
those
past the red line,
Yeah.
or else the movie doesn't work.
Yes. But it stands to reason if you're unconscious and you fall off something,
You're not going to roll.
you're not going to roll at all.
No,
You're going to hit the floor.
like dead weight.
Correct. You're going to hit the floor and you're going to stay there. You're not going to roll. You're not going to move. You're not.
Yeah,
going
unless
to do
you're
anything.
drunk, and then you might have some kind of attempt, some muscle movement that's trying to get you upright again, and then
Right.
that might roll
Well,
you
that would make
a little bit
sense,
further.
Conrad.
But that's
that
not
that doesn't happen here.
That ain't
She
the
rolls.
case.
She keeps rolling too.
rolling.
rolling. Anyways, she
Okay.
rolls out of the space.
So Issa, so she rolls beyond the red line, okay? And Karen hunts for Lewis, the doctor, okay, after this happens, because she's not responding. Issa's not responding. Apparently, Issa has never heard of taking a pulse.
Right.
So anyway, she comes back into the room after her bullshit attempt at trying to find help, okay?
Right. And
She comes back in the room and returns to find Issa, her sister, has puked or something. Some kind of bile has come out of her to the floor, and is most likely dead, even though, you know, Karen doesn't check her pulse. She just decides that she's dead.
Well, isn't Issa's eyes open? I think so.
Right. Maybe you're right, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
I think so. So therefore, she would come
could be
to that
dead.
conclusion.
But you know,
Why?
people pass out with their eyes open too sometimes.
Yeah, but her eyes were like glazed over.
So what does she decide to do after that?
She
Yeah, it
doesn't even.
boggles the
Yeah,
mind.
she doesn't bother to get any official. She doesn't bother to get any medical assistance.
But she's already tried that. She's already exhausted all her resources by
That's
walking
right.
halfway down the hall,
That's right.
yelling twice,
That's
and
right.
crying, and
Mhm.
coming back into the room.
Right.
Isn't that everything?
I
a
mean,
human
yeah.
can be asked to do?
Wouldn't you travel back into the time machine that killed your sister? Yeah, that would be your next option.
Yeah. And that's what. Yeah, she does that, and she goes to the future where there is no help. So a lot of this is making sense. Okay.
Yeah.
The next thing, okay. We cut to Karen and someone near her tent in the wasteland. Like it goes from that scene. Their sister just died. She ends up transferring into the future. Into the next scene is not even her arriving in the future and telling someone.
Right.
It's her
We skipped that scene. Yeah.
moping in front of a tent. Her friend shows up in crutches. I can't remember what that character's name is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter, folks.
It really
None
doesn't.
of the names in this
Because their characters aren't really developed.
yeah, you don't care about them. They're only mentioned in passing here and there. Like they mentioned this guy Cleve, and I didn't even find out who Cleve was until the very end of the film. So none of this matters. Karen, that's all that matters, all right? And Issa, except until she dies.
Issa, yeah, exactly.
All right, and George, Father George. So they're near this tent. They're in the wasteland, and the other girl comes up with the crutches and gives Karen another letter from her father. Okay, and Karen seems to be out of it. Has not read any of her letters. There's a whole pile of them there, and along comes some dude from the beginning, the guy with the long blonde hair. Again, names don't matter. We'll just call him Dude. He looks like a surfer dude. So he scolds her on being self-centered. Apparently things in the past are escalating for the worst. Okay. Karen says after the dude talks about George, his father, and what the hard time he's going through, Karen just says,
We don't see the hard time George is going through. Though.
no, we only
We just
rumors.
hear about it.
Yeah. So Karen says, my mind is blank.
No shit, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for telling us. You should have started off, your first appearance that way. Okay, so back at the transfer station, people are walking calmly through the hallways. And then, so the first shot is a small group walking calmly through the hallways. And then someone says something about, oh, don't forget so-and-so. We can't forget so-and-so. We can't leave them behind. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. They're walking away from camera, and there's lines being delivered. What? Whoever delivers a line with their back to the camera. Only in an aesthetic kind of situation where you do that. You turn your back, and that's like a soap opera scene, You gaze off into the moonlight, Okay, so they're walking away. That's the first scene. Okay, this is the calm walking people, and then followed right after that with 3 teenagers running at full tilt boogie through the hallways.
Yeah.
Okay, they go into a room and they start packing bags like crazy.
Notice I'm not speculating on any of these scenes because they're as inexplicably bizarre as they sound.
Yeah. Okay, so they go into a room. There's 3 kids, and they start packing up. They start packing up all the vanilla, all the chocolate, all the mountain co-op equipment that they have, all the backpacks and whatever else, freeze-dried mango and everything else that they're going to take into the future. Apparently there's a real urgency for them to get this done quickly. They cut to a short scene of George, the father, outside with 2 other guys in suits, and you know what he says? This should be any moment now. They never come back to them again. They go back. The scene then goes back to these three kids, hurriedly packing their bags and trying to get the hell out of Dodge.
Right. And you would think that if they send security people to close down a government installation, it would be more than two guys in cheap suits.
Yeah.
There would be military guys there, literally going through the entire installation.
Yeah, room by room, and then posting guards at every room, right?
Correct.
So the next scene is teenage post-apocalyptic camping trip. That's what I dubbed it.
Okay.
Teenage post-apocalyptic camping trip. The kids discuss the latest news from back home. Is the government onto them?
Do we care?
Do we care? Do we know? We don't know. Lewis shows up despite his age. Okay.
Yeah. The machine is supposed to kill you.
Yeah.
If you're over 20,
Yeah.
someone shows up.
Yeah. He shows up. He does mention it at one point. They ask him, like, why'd you do it? And he goes, always wanted to try it, dude.
It's because I'm black.
Because I'm black. I thought I was immune to this.
Yeah.
Only white people get screwed up by this shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dig it.
Karen transfers back. Why? So Karen transfers back.
We don't even know why she transferred back.
Well,
That's
she
bizarre.
you know what she tells us? She tells us that she went back to get supplies. Now they have crates and crates and crates of supplies.
Right.
You know what she goes back for? 3 rolls of toilet paper.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, at least go back and get a weapon or something, something that we don't have
Or a
yet.
series of weapons.
Or whatever. Why are you even going back? She's never gone back to talk to her father to discuss the whole sister episode.
Right.
She's going to go back for 3 rolls of toilet paper.
And why only 3? I mean, goddamn.
She doesn't
If
even
you're going to
get all
go
3.
back for toilet paper, you're going to carry more than 3.
You need more than 3.
Right.
3 is like you blink and 3 are gone.
Yeah.
Especially with that group. And the lack of vegetation.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's nobody home when she transfers back. She's going around like there's no one's. There doesn't seem to be anybody around. Dad is empty, right? Because the construction project is done. She makes a phone call from his office, and she asks for George Braden, and then she's frustrated that they won't connect the call, because that's how you make a phone call. You actually just call and ask for the name, and that's you don't actually call the number. This is 1973, folks.
Well,
Yeah. Okay. So then, right after that, she washes up, and there's the token breast shot that I've been waiting for in a Peter Fonda movie.
yeah.
Okay, token breast shot. I've seen better lumps on oatmeal anyway, but she's not like she's not attractive or anything.
I
like that.
think she's very attractive.
Oh, she's pretty.
Well, it's unusual that Kelly Bohannon, which plays Karen in this film, did not go on to other roles. I've seen worse actresses in films other than Kelly.
Who had a career?
No, Kelly Bohannon did not have a career after
No. I'm
this
saying
film.
worse actresses who went on to have a career.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So all of a sudden, security somehow is investigating her presence. They're alarmed to a intruder in Sector 3, or whatever. I'm just making that up. Karen walks around checking rooms. Okay. Then that guy with the glasses.
There's a lot of walking around in this facility.
Yeah, she's walking around. She's got 3 rolls of toilet paper. Ronald shows up at the last second. Ronald is the dude with glasses,
Right.
who I thought was Keith Carradine. But you're
Ronald,
telling me
yeah, well, no.
he's one of the main dudes, and grabs her and pulls her into the transfer room. She drops one of her toilet rolls, okay, and leaves it in the little hall.
Right.
And for some reason, they don't have time to grab it, even though it's like not even a foot away from them.
Right.
So they grabs her, brings her to the room, tells her to be quiet, because she's whining at this point. She's like, this and that, and it's like, hey, just be quiet. Locks the door. The security guard, walks very slowly, comes across this roll of toilet paper, and what is this? The janitorial staff here are very,
Slipshod.
very slipshod. So he checks that door, and it's locked.
Right.
Okay, so he can't open it. Why? Because he's a security guard. Security's on there. Okay, yeah. So he comes along and checks the room. Doesn't have any keys, and yeah. Okay. And then they prep for transfer. So now we got a guy and a girl getting half naked.
Right.
Half naked.
Right.
To transfer. Okay. And he almost forgets.
Now this is the important scene, Conrad.
It is.
Is the guy behind the girl, or is the girl in front of the guy?
The guy is behind the girl. Interesting.
Is this another one of Peter Fonda's fantasies? It is going somewhere here, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It goes back to his Easy Rider days.
Okay, that's an image that I can't readily...
Except he had Jack Nicholson back there. With a football helmet on.
Oh, fuck.
It's what I'm saying, Peter. Yeah, okay. So Ronald and Karen transfer back, and when they arrive, Karen is cold. So Ronald grabs her jacket out of the storage compartment, puts it on. Then she goes, "I'm still cold." So what I thought was happening here was a romantic scene.
Right.
Because he warms her up somehow. They cut away. They show the top of the transfer unit that's still closed and locked, and then the other kids come along and they go, "What's going on here?" Well, this one's locked. There must be someone who must have stayed in there overnight.
Right.
So that's what I thought. That they must have had their fun, or some kind of romance had bloomed.
Right.
Inside the depths of the transfer unit.
Because that's where you want to get romantic in a time machine.
Well, it's dark.
Well, true.
Yeah, it's dark in there. So finally they emerge, and then they also find out that the units have been shut down.
Completely.
There's no power.
No power whatsoever.
No power. So everyone's a little bit on edge at this point.
Yeah. No one starts freaking out. It would have been a great scene, if they could act, if someone started freaking out when that occurred.
Yeah.
That would lead to some urgency at this point.
Definitely. Well, that would basically tell them that shit has hit the fan back at the Justice League.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Karen and Ronald and the Sunshine Band decide to head out to meet the others. ? That's, what others? But apparently there are other transfer stations that are transporting people into the future, and they must all be having the same problem concurrently with the government. What are these other transfer stations?
Yeah, and where are they?
Well, they say one's in Portland.
Right. Because that's where you would put in another time machine in Portland.
Well, I don't know. It's just like...
Where is it in Portland? Is it in... is it outside the city? Is it within the city limits? I mean, obviously they put this one in the Idaho desert for a real reason.
Yeah.
The damn thing, can fucking kill you. They would obviously put the one in Portland, or that they say is in Portland, somewhere else in Oregon, not in Portland.
Well, have you ever heard of anything, fantastic or compelling about Portland? It's not on the list of travel destinations. There's like Venice, Portland.
Right. Yeah. Well, apparently, I'm not going to go to Portland.
Portland
apparently is where young people go to retire, according to the TV show. But that's another topic.
Anyway, they're saying this is about 500 miles away or something. Okay.
Right.
And Karen is basically acting like dead weight. The group leaves. Then there's the big bonfire scene in the middle of the lava flows, right?
Right.
Of the lava field. And we should. This is lava that is not flowing anymore. This is completely dry lava. Where did they get the wood?
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to get wood in the middle of the desert. Yes.
Yeah, it's damn near impossible. But maybe I don't know. Maybe it's all those rolls of toilet paper they brought back with them.
Yeah. They could have used the cactus trees,
Cactus?
dry them out, maybe.
Can you light a cactus tree?
If you dry them out, yeah, true. But
Well,
if you
even
can dry them out, you can
Okay.
dry them out.
I didn't
Maybe you
actually see any
can.
cactus, but you know. The group leaves. Okay, so Ronald and Karen split from the main group, and Karen keeps hinting to Ronald that she is ready. She is wanton and ready.
Right.
The fruit is ripe.
And what's Ronald's reaction?
He's not interested.
No reaction whatsoever.
He's a scientist.
Right.
Yeah.
He's a scientist and he's looking for things.
He doesn't do field work. Just it's all lab experiments for him.
Right.
It's all petri dishes and slides. He's a little bit nervous and doesn't.
He was an interesting character, simply
I
because
didn't
you don't know.
find he was that bad. Like, I
Well,
thought he
you
was-
don't know exactly where he's coming from. Karen, at this point, because of her experiences, she's not ready, willing, and able to cope at this point. She's not willing to take up the guard and, survive her situation. Ronald is an intrinsic scientist. He's essentially looking around for ways or methods which he can develop to their advantage. So the last thing on his mind is sex. Karen is interested in getting down with Ronald because she seems to believe that the way to survive is through progeny.
And remember, this is the same character who, in the beginning scenes of this film, announced that she had been raped.
Right. So
Isn't
why
that
would
kinda
she?
weird?
Well, what exactly?
Aren't
Conor?
rape victims a
Why
little more
would
guarded and not so?
they would be very guarded? Yeah, they would be very guarded.
I just
But
thought of that
obviously,
now,
she's
actually.
psychologically complex because of her experiences. But why would she be so willing and able to give it up to this stranger who doesn't seem to give a flying shit about her experiences, and possibly even thinks that she's dead weight?
Yeah, well, he does. He gives her shit earlier about not packing the camp quick enough. And there was a weird scene, too. When Karen's hinting all this stuff to Robert, I was like, I thought these two had already shagged.
You mean Ronald, not Robert.
Did I say Robert?
Yeah, you said Robert.
Sorry. I confused you with that knob.
Fuck you. Fuck you twice.
Anyway, so I thought they were already shagged, and I guess not. I
No.
was, I couldn't read it.
Ronald, obviously, he's
If
disconnected.
it had been Robert, this would have already happened. Okay, along the road to nowhere, they discovered abandoned cars. Wow.
Yeah.
And they're dusty,
Mhm.
inside and out.
Right.
And who cares, right?
Well, it's interesting. Why would they be dusty inside? I think here's where the film's art direction improved quite a bit. I found that scene when they discover the car, and it's all dusty, and it looks really like the car has been abandoned by the side of the road.
Yeah.
It seems to me like a real car that was abandoned by the side of the road.
Yeah, no, it's, yeah.
It almost seems possibly like maybe they found a car abandoned and they just shot it. Because it feels authentic.
It's definitely authentic, and the dust work inside and outside is perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
They even find these old toys inside that are all dusty as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's probably the shining moment for the art department.
Well, there's another scene, but we'll get to
Yeah,
that.
there is. After the cars, Karen starts to walk off, and Ronald chases her. And we're there. We're there, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
We've come
We
to
come
the
across
train.
we come across to the
Bus,
shining.
the train bus.
Yeah. This is my favorite scene in the entire film.
Mine too.
There are other scenes toward the end that I really like, but this is actually it affects you.
So
I don't know if this part was an accident, Conrad, or if it was deliberately scripted. It feels almost ad-libbed, but it's so effective.
It's effective because it's probably some of the best cinematography in the whole film as well. when Ronald, okay, so Ronald this is what happens in the scene, folks. Karen and Ronald see this train from a distance. Okay, Ronald decides he's going to go and investigate it. Karen, she don't want to do anything, so she's going to sit right there. Right? Am I right so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he goes and investigates it. There's a great shot of the train on an angle, and Ronald starts to walk up to it. Then the camera is behind the train, where all you can see are in the frame is part of the car and the wheel mechanisms underneath and the track, and you see his legs walking from car to car, checking if the doors will open. Right? That's very well shot. It's just a silhouette of his legs under the train, and he finally comes to a door that opens. Right? He opens it. And that's all we get. We just get that little bit of a thrust in the soundtrack of some impending...
a motif.
Yeah.
And then
and
all of a
nothing.
sudden...
He's just standing there, and then he's walking back after it. The next shot is of him walking
Doesn't
back.
he close the door?
No.
No?
I don't believe so.
Could have swore he closed the door.
Maybe you're right. I don't think so, though. I'd have to watch it again.
Okay.
All right.
Anyways, for argument's sake, let's say he closes the door because he doesn't want to leave what he saw exposed.
So what did he see, Rob?
Well, he slowly walks back to Karen. And there's an interesting shot of him explaining to Karen exactly what is inside the car. And there are bodies inside the car. And they're wrapped. And he describes them.
Wrapped in plastic.
Correct. That's what I was going to say next, got it. That he describes that they were wrapped in plastic, and how that they were wrapped, and how that they were bundled and piled on top of each other, as high as the car. It's an interesting scene because you believe it. The way it's delivered by the character, and even Karen's reaction to it, I thought was interesting. And the scene ends abruptly, from what I recall, and it stays with you as the film progresses.
Well, I don't suppose it was empty.
No. It's not empty. They were all in plastic bags, on their way somewhere. Probably a dumping point up the line. I think they were coming from the coast.
It's a beautifully well done scene. It's the best scene in the entire film.
Yep.
Although there are a couple of other scenes. Again, there's a confrontation toward the end, which we'll get to momentarily, that I really liked. I thought that scene with the car seriously elevated this film. And after that, where do we go from there?
Oh,
Colin?
right after that, they finally arrive at the meeting point where they're supposed to meet these other cats, time travel cats.
Yeah.
Okay, and no one is there. Karen thinks she's pregnant. She tells this.
Yeah. How did that happen, Karen?
Well, she had shagged Cleve,
Right. Which we never saw. Right.
which we never saw, but apparently that was how Cleve had comforted her after her sister's death.
Right.
That's how guys work, by the way.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, really? That's. Oh, let me help you. Let me
Yeah.
let's
Let me help
let's,
you.
Let's,
Yeah,
let's
help
put
me.
our sleeping bags
Yeah.
together.
Okay.
Yeah. It's just another example. And Cleve and the gang show up, right? Yay! All
The
right.
hero has arrived.
The gang is there. They apparently had found third generation survivors who are all hearing impaired and slightly, sweetly retarded.
Mentally challenged. Yeah.
The word they used was retarded, but
Yeah.
that's
Well.
1973.
For the purposes of this podcast,
Yeah.
we'll say
I'm
mentally
not trying to make
challenged.
fun of retarded people. I'm not, or bring any kind of attention to that word, even though I keep saying it.
Yeah.
Retarded.
We're
Retarded,
not talking about politicians.
Okay,
Conrad.
so Karen tells the group she's pregnant. She's announced it now. But the group tells her that they're all sterile. So there is a side effect to going into the future.
Right.
You lose your seed. Doesn't believe
Yeah,
them.
she doesn't believe it at all.
She knows she's pregnant. She missed her period, and then like for some reason that's just like, you know.
It couldn't possibly be a side effect of time travel, Karen, that you lose your period
Yeah, if you're sterile, then
Well,
maybe you don't. Yeah. Okay, so they find boats. Next shot, they find boats near this water body that they find. There's some great shots of skipping stones.
yeah, that was some nice. The film at this point does improve, Conrad. There are certain scenes that, sort of validate the time you spent watching it.
Okay, so
For me, anyway.
The next day after they skipped stones and frolicked in the moonlight, the next day Karen picks up and takes off while everyone is asleep. And where is she going? We don't know. But we find out that she goes back to where Arthur and Jennifer are. Okay?
Surfer dude.
Surfer dude, yeah. She goes back there and finds empty canisters
Strewn everywhere.
strewn
right?
everywhere. All the milk, all the chocolate milk and vanilla that they had, all empty canisters now.
Right.
And what else does she finds a corpse.
Right. And this is where the film gets really interesting.
Starts to get interesting. The corpse is actually the best part of production value that they've got going.
Well,
One of
the
the better
scene leading up to the fact that she discovers the body down there,
Yeah.
that was very well done.
Then she continues on to the transfer unit.
Now, hold on a second, Conrad, before we go there.
Yes.
Karen goes there, sees canisters everywhere,
Yeah.
finds a body. It's
Yeah.
obviously Arthur, right?
I don't know if it's Arthur.
We assume it's Arthur,
Yeah, okay, well,
okay? It's badly decomposed.
I think it.
But at this point,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be prudent? Well, obviously someone attacked them, killed at least one of them. Would it be prudent to stay in that area or get the hell out of Dodge?
Well, she does continue on to the transfer unit where she does produce a rather big knife, which I didn't know they even had one of those.
Right. It
That-
just came out of nowhere.
She
Or
just-
perhaps she found it there.
I don't think so. I think she packed it when she left the main group. She probably stole it from them.
Yeah.
yeah.
I didn't see her pack it initially, so she probably took it from the main group.
Yeah,
right?
because I don't think it was there with the canisters.
No.
She looks into the transfer unit and finds Arthur
Right.
dead at the bottom. So the
Mhm.
other corpse was that other girl that was with them, the one on crutches.
Oh, that is correct.
Yeah, I think
But
so.
you didn't see the crutches.
You don't see the crutches, and you can't tell if it's a man or a woman really because it's half decomposed.
Yeah,
so,
plus it had blonde hair,
I think.
so you would assume that it's Arthur.
Yeah. So anyway, Arthur's at the bottom of the transfer unit. Like when you slide it open, and you look down. He's
Right.
down there, right? Jennifer attacks Karen out of nowhere.
Right.
Even though wherever you walk on this lava field, on this hard rock surface, it makes a really scratchy, chalky sound, like you're walking on a chalkboard with your fingernails.
Right.
Yeah, so she comes out of nowhere and attacks Karen. Karen retreats to the transfer unit, so she goes inside and locks herself, apparently in with Arthur, right? Is it
Yeah.
the same side? I think it's the same side.
Yes, yes, his body's in there.
And so it should be like decomposed, and there should be the sound of flies and all that other crap going on
Right.
too. What are we getting out of that? We don't even get the body. When
Well,
she's in
isn't the inside of the chamber sealed? Isn't it sterile? I believe so.
there? Maybe you're right.
So the corpse would actually not decompose, it would remain intact
Maybe you're right.
for a lot longer.
There you go. You're just making up excuse after excuse for Mr. Fonda.
Well.
Okay, so while she's in there,
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer finds her knife, the knife that she was trying to ward off Jennifer with.
Right.
It got tossed, and she finds it, and she goes back, and she's banging with a rock on the lock, trying to unlock it.
Right. Now, it's obviously at this point, Jennifer, for some bizarre reason, has gone insane.
Yeah.
We can only speculate that...
They're out of vanilla. And all that's left is chocolate.
That's right. And if you hate chocolate,
You really
insane.
fucking hate chocolate.
Yeah, you really fucking hate
I would
chocolate.
make the argument
You're
for
going
vanilla,
insane.
that if you hate vanilla, you really hate vanilla, because that's what I'm a chocolate fan.
Yeah. Obviously, Jennifer came to the realization that the food was running out. They can't get any more.
Nobody's coming
better.
back.
That's right. She's better off if she kills everyone she sees and steals their gear.
Yeah, nice one, Jennifer. So what happens when Karen's inside the transfer unit and Nutjob is banging on the lock?
She realizes that there's power.
The power has come back.
Yeah.
That's right.
And she obviously figures out, well,
I'm going to transfer the hell out
I'm
of
going
here.
to get the hell out of here before she opens that door.
Okay, so the plot is escalating now. It's moving along. So she transfers back to the past, okay? And she shows up, okay? She appears and there's a technician there.
Right.
For some reason, he's afraid of her.
Well, they don't know. This is a secret facility. They don't know what that device does. Right?
He doesn't know?
No, he doesn't know.
But
It's a
They
secret.
don't establish that. They don't establish that.
Yes, they do at
We
the
don't know
beginning,
that this
Conrad.
is the technician from
Well, they
before,
do.
from
Well,
later.
yeah, we don't know who the hell this guy is.
We just
but
know he's
from
eating
his
an apple.
well, from his reaction, Conrad, we know he's one of the people that probably have not been briefed on exactly what this program is, and so he's probably there doing clerical work, okay, and eating an apple.
Yeah.
And so when this woman appears out of nowhere, he freaks out.
Yeah, he freaks out. He basically backs out of the room. She's going, "Won't you please help me? Won't you please help me?" And he will have none of that. He goes out of the room. What does she do? She closes the door. He can't get back in. Nobody has keys in this film.
Yeah.
He starts calling for help. Karen is inside there. She locks the door. She dumps his toolbox onto the floor and starts rifling through it. Right? And we mentioned, or at least we'll mention now, that in the toolbox are just like basic carpenter's tools and
handyman's tools.
Handyman's tools. Nothing that would indicate that these the type of instruments that you would use on a time machine. She finds this huge Allen key.
Right.
Now, the future is IKEA. All right, this is like looking into the future. That this Allen key, this is probably way before IKEA, right? 1973. I don't think they were around yet, or at least they weren't in North America. So this actually looked like something really cool. This like hockey stick tool, right? So she uses this massive Allen key. What does she do? She goes to the control panel on the
And
time
it
machine.
automatically fits, right?
It automatically fits, and what does she do? She had no idea what she's doing. But
Exactly.
all she knows is that if she keeps putting this thing into holes and turning it slightly to the left, the frequency that you hear emanating from the machine gets higher in pitch.
Right.
So she's just basically tuning it like a Fender Strat.
Right.
Higher.
So it's essentially Peter Fonda's guitar
It's
that he uses to seduce his young ingenues.
You're still
Go
on that
higher,
kick, eh?
yeah. Well, go higher and higher, right?
Take it higher.
Take it higher.
Let's get high.
Let's get high.
Let's get high, baby.
Higher.
Let's get higher than the ether. Let's go. So she's doing that. In the meantime, what's going on outside the door? This guy calls for help. A dude shows up. He comes.
One guy shows
One
up.
guy shows up, and what does he do? What does he do to try to get the door open? He starts knocking on it. Like we haven't tried that yet. Okay?
Oh, God.
Let us in! You in there!
You!
Help us get this door open!
Open!
So then they call another dude. So a dude shows up with a machine gun. And he hasn't thought to shoot the locks.
No.
No.
You
okay?
cannot shoot the locks. No.
He's got a protective helmet in case there's some kind of backfire. But
Right.
anyway, no one has keys to the fucking door. It's not been established that she has any kind of
technical or any knowledge of
anything.
how the machine works.
Yeah.
She just knows that if she tunes it with this Allen key, that perhaps she'll get it to a position where she can get the hell out of there, and perhaps, who knows, to another time.
I would have bought it if there was just a dial that said 56, 57, 58, like, you know, give us a number of years to go by.
Dude, it doesn't even need that sort of cheesy, bloody indication. All it had to do is maybe if she tuned the machine, that perhaps they even had computer printout back then.
I'll remind you that in the beginning of the film, they talked about the machine and the awesome complexity of it, and they mentioned that a specialized engineer has to tune it every few days.
Right.
Okay? So now this girl comes along and finds an Allen key.
And
she
tunes
thinks she
it
can do
in
it.
5 minutes.
Yeah, in 5 minutes she does it. Okay, so finally the general or someone arrives on the scene. This is outside the door again. Okay?
Right.
And he says, "What's going on?" And then what do they say? "She's inside."
Who's inside?
Yeah. How does he know that there's even a she? Like what she are you talking about? You know, like, okay, so it doesn't matter. So this guy's got a key. This guy's fucking important.
Right.
He's got a key. He's got a bunch of keys, but you don't know which one opens the door.
That's right. So he's trying all of them.
So anyway, he finally gets the door. All right, and Karen transfers out. And they stay there
as they open the door.
As they open the door, but actually they open the door and they kind of stand there for a minute while she disappears. And
it wasn't really, Connor. It wasn't for a minute.
It was longer than it should have been.
Well, yeah. By the time the machine activated, they had opened the door.
Yeah.
And you know they probably saw the room vibrate, and
You're still back to that, eh?
well, it is a giant vibrator. So what the fuck are you talking? You really have a hard on for this vibrator machine, don't you?
You're the one who's brought this up with vibrating. I never said vibrating once.
Okay, well now you said it. Okay, let's go on.
Okay. So Karen emerges into the future, Back to the Future again, part 2. They show Jennifer waiting for her with a knife, and you think that as soon as Karen opens the thing that Jennifer's going to get her, but Jennifer's in a different time. Karen has fled to a farther distant future. Yet they still have scenes with Jennifer, right? You know, talking to Karen through the thing, you know, saying, come out, it doesn't work, and all this bullshit. And then, anyway, so they go back to Karen.
Well, hold on a second, Conrad. After she transferred, I don't recall Jennifer being there at all.
Yes.
She was?
Yeah.
So then she just transferred back to the same time.
No, she wasn't in the same time. They show scenes of her still
Oh,
waiting.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. She basically,
it's a red herring.
Yeah. She has a, I guess it's a soliloquy where she believes that she's still in that time period, and she still thinks that Karen will get her. She doesn't know that she jumped further into the future.
Yeah, she doesn't know that Karen.
So she thinks,
she's waiting.
from her perspective, that Jennifer is still there. Yeah.
Okay, so Karen emerges from the transport unit. She looks into the other side, and it's all decayed and everything.
Yeah.
There's no one there. Jennifer's not there, right? And
All the cans that were opened before are all...
They're all tarnished and decayed. Yeah. So the campfire, the camp area, the flagpole has come down. The beautiful, pristine silver canisters are all rotted and decayed now. So this indicates that they're in the future.
Probably even 100 years.
A hand to the art department on that one.
Yeah, they actually paid attention
to that
at this
detail.
point. Yeah.
This
is where the film gets very interesting, Conrad, because you don't know quite where it's going to go from.
Yeah. It could be interesting, yes.
At first, Karen gets out, she looks around, she assesses her surroundings,
and she walks
off. Gets as much, whatever she can, walks off, and continues on for a fair distance.
Yeah, but not that far. Anyway, yeah,
she's
right. She
pretty
walks
far.
for a bit, and then she sort of passes out, I guess. She walks towards a road or something.
Well, she sees a car, what she interprets as a car. It's a futuristic automobile.
Yeah.
she approaches it but passes out. She figures that these people are her saviors.
Yeah. They pick her up and they stick her in the trunk.
Yeah.
During the scene, by the way, there's a montage of shots
Right.
of like the whole movie, basically from Karen's perspective, I guess. Well, these
Right.
little shots.
Yes.
They don't really amount to a
They
pile of
actually,
beans, but-
well, yes, they do amount. That's her experiences up until that point. Now, if you recall, when you're dying or when you die, you see your life pass before your eyes.
Yes, I've
correct?
heard that before.
Right. The big kicker at the end is that she went through all this, survived all this, where everyone else died, or assumably died, out there in the desert. She gets to what she thinks is salvation. The montage that Conrad alludes to here is Karen's life passing before her eyes. She's shoved in the back of the vehicle. It turns out that this vehicle is in fact powered by humans. That is, humans in the future are a power source.
Yeah, because there's a so the way we find this out is with the family that's inside the vehicle. There's a mother, father, and child.
Mm-hmm.
They'll have a discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and the child keeps asking the parents, "Well, what if they run out? What if we
Well-
run out of these people? Are we sure that this was the right person that we picked up as one of them?"
Right.
Must be referring to people from.
Yeah, you know the mutants that we saw earlier on in the film.
That's right.
That they alluded to, the mentally
And
damaged.
they say, yeah,
vagrants.
yeah, of course it is, and well, what if we run out? Well, we've almost finished one. This is a new one, so we'll be fine for a while. And they just basically give him, quick answers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the scene was a little bit confusing.
I don't think the scene was confusing at all, Conrad.
I thought it was.
You
Well, not-
find out
not
you
super-
find out it's actually a pretty scary fucking end when you discover that she thought she was in a future time where perhaps she
It
was
all worked
safer.
out.
It all worked out. They went through the Echo Crisis. It turns out the Echo Crisis was replaced by something far more sinister. So it's a sort of cautionary ending whereby perhaps humans in the future will become a commodity unto the greater society, like Soylent Green, which the ending kind of riffs off.
people.
Yeah, instead of people becoming food sources, we become power sources, and this was decades before the Matrix.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a very cool ending.
So you're saying they go from a dystopian future to an uber dystopian future.
Yeah, I thought the message there was quite clear to me. I thought it almost saved the film.
Almost, except it was right at the very end. So
Well, right at the very end, but all it takes is a massive kicker to throw all the shit that went on before and all the inconsistencies. The film is very sloppily made. Christ, is it sloppily made. But at a certain point, it kicks out all the inconsistencies, all the hackneyed performances, all the bad writing, and sort of gets into a place where, holy shit, there's some serious crap going on now. Where the hell is this movie going to go from here? And it becomes pretty fascinating. The pacing is very languid, it's very lethargic. A lot of people like that about the film. When you're dealing with dystopian science fiction, at some point there's got to be a greater sense of urgency, and it just doesn't catch it until the latter half of the third act. And like I said, that was very effective. I would have to say, on the basis of that I would give it a marginal recommendation. Marginal. simply because there's a lot of crap to go through, and there's a lot of really bad stuff about this film. It would definitely warrant a remake with a real budget, and perhaps some major revisions in the script. But that latter bit there, and the scene with the railway, really brought to life this film for me.
For me, the film just suffered a lot by pacing problems. The acting wasn't that great. There were some points of interest in the film, but because there were all these little problems that kept coming up, it took me out of the driver's seat. It made me too aware of the film's problems, and had me not really enjoying the whole process. The pacing was bad that it became boring for me. The lack of production value or attention to detail on some kind of artistic level just really crapped all over it for me. So regardless of the scene with the train or the other couple shots that were actually well shot, it was a little bit too little too late for me at the end, with the interesting plot twist.
Yeah.
And so it didn't really fulfill me. I wouldn't recommend this film unless you wanted to see something from the 70s that tried to be a science fiction film. I know it had strong science fiction themes, time travel and dystopian futures and things like that. You've mentioned them before.
Yeah, environmental themes. There's also a subtext about Karen being an outpatient.
Oh yes,
in
we
this
have
film.
to get back to this. That was part of the synopsis. That was part of their DVD release
Right.
in '88, was it VHS first? Geez, I don't know.
That's really not addressed in the film.
At all.
No, not at all.
I felt that was
Other
an
than the
attempt to
scene-
save
yeah.
this film, or to save their own asses by mentioning that she was
That
a
perhaps,
mental
yeah,
outpatient.
that perhaps the entire film is a delusion of this woman. First of all, the film initially isn't from Karen's perspective; it's from her sister,
Yeah.
Isa's. So we
Is it?
Yeah, well, it is. So it wouldn't make sense if the entire film is this sort of delusion as interpreted by Karen. It's ridiculous to even suggest that to me.
They would have had to make mention of it in the beginning that she was a mental outpatient. That
Well,
would
I
have to
believe
been
that
a
they
plot
mentioned.
point.
Yeah, I do believe, Conrad, that it may have been mentioned.
I would say no, but because I really, when I review the film twice, I usually make notes throughout the whole thing, and something like that would have caught my attention. I'm gonna say no.
Okay.
All right.
So her sister, when she's introduced, Karen is introduced.
Yeah.
Don't they mention that she's from some sort of facility or something? No?
Not really. Not really. They kind of glaze over. They do mention something about when her sister got raped, that
Right.
the fellow who raped her was taken away.
Okay.
That's it. They don't say that it's a mental facility. They don't say any
Right.
of that. They don't mention ever Karen's.
Oh, so they
qualifications.
said the guy that raped Karen was
Yeah.
taken away,
Yeah.
or that Karen was taken away.
No, they said that he was taken away. They didn't see him after that.
Okay, because I don't recall.
That was the scene when they were driving around.
Oh yeah, that's right. I
gypsies.
recall the rape. Yeah, the scene with the rape.
It's almost
being
in
mentioned.
around the same. Time.
Even the rape, it's just mentioned and sort of
In passing.
casually thrown away.
Yeah, it's like, you know what the weather's going to be like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, by the
it's
way, I
calling
was
for
raped.
rape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't know. That's very bizarre that they would include that she's an outpatient. Why would they let an outpatient into a?
You don't want mental disease in the future.
Exactly. So what the hell?
Yeah, I know
What-
she's related to,
George.
George.
Yeah,
And
but
it's,
still.
but George already has part of his
DNA
DNA in the
USA.
future, so-
Yeah, so
The
I mean,
good
who the
part.
fuck cares? I believe someone mentioned that during the course of scripting this film, that they just shoved everything in there, and whatever stuck to the screen they kept.
Yeah.
And that was it. Everything else they just removed, and this is why you have little weird scenes here and there that do not make sense together.
Yeah, it comes from the throw all kinds of crap together and see what happens school of filmmaking. Pretty well.
Yeah. That can produce some very interesting cinema, and I have to say, even though the pacing was extremely turgid, there are scenes in there which just, for me, brought me out of my stupor, and said, what the fuck was that? Or what the hell? Hold on a second, I have to rewind that and check it out. Did she say what she said? Or, I mean, wow. It's interesting little moments like that that make a film for me. Even a really bad film, it has a few interesting moments like that. And effectively done, while the rest of the film is amazingly incompetent and half-baked, like this one is. It makes the viewing experience for me. For some people, it's just simply not enough. And I respect that. I would say that this is a very interesting relic of the 70s. I don't know what exactly happened to Peter Fonda after this. I believe he did direct another film, a couple other films after this.
Well, he did Spasms later on. He was in
No, he was in
Spasms.
Spasms. He was
Yeah.
in a supporting role in
Yeah.
Spasms, correct. I'm talking about directing.
Oh,
the film.
directing. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think so. I can't recall what he did after this. He probably did direct a couple of other films.
Direct maybe a couple pornos or.
No, I
Or
don't think so.
60s,
Well,
acid,
who knows? He could
acid,
have. Well, who knows?
acid.
Off screen, he could have used the giant vibrator machine with a few people in there. Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of a bizarre imagination comes up with a giant vibrator machine? Has his female cast?
Yours, sir.
No, sir.
Yours.
No, sir. Well, hey, I didn't write that in the film, buddy.
I don't think.
Obviously, it came
but,
from someone's imagination. A giant vibrating time machine, where the female cast members strip down to their underwear and they straddle the machine. They don't sit in the machine like a pod. They straddle the machine. There's some sort of
some kind of undercurrent
psychological
of,
theme going on there. Yes, sir. Okay, so Mr. Del Bianco didn't care for the film whatsoever.
No.
I guess not. You didn't even find any of the little moments I mentioned, sort of.
Some of them were okay. Like I said, the train moment, the ending, a couple of scenes here and there, but otherwise, it didn't have enough to really keep me interested in the film.
Yeah.
It was a little bit. These were only just moments, little blips that happened. They're not enough and they weren't close enough together to string together some kind of.
So
interest.
nothing substantive enough for you to actually hold on to anything.
Yeah, and like I said, I would have changed the name of this film to Echo Crisis.
Well, you know what? You probably would have gotten a few more people into the theater.
But
You would have
Echo
renamed.
Crisis.
Well, if you would have renamed the film as the Time Vibrator. Oh, why not? It fucking works. The Time Vibrator. You bill it with Deep Throat. Deep Throat out then? Well, there you go. The Time Vibrator. You bill it with Deep Throat. It fucking worked.
In time travel, no one can feel you vibrate. Nah, that's terrible.
Yeah, very terrible.
Thanks.
Okay, this is Robert Black, and this is Connor Del Bianco.
No.
Yes, I'm Robert Black, and you're Connor Del Bianco. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Till next time.
Yes, adios.
You hesitated there, sir.
Yeah, I'm transferring out right now. You can expect an Idaho transfer.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. See you later, everyone.
Ciao.
Are you sure that was one of them?
Of course it was.
What happens when we run out?
We just put one in. We won't need another for quite a ways.
I didn't mean that. I mean, what if we run out of all of them and we can't even find any?
They'll figure out another way for us.
We can use something else.
But what if that's too hard or expensive? And what if they decide they can't change? We'll use each other then, won't we?
Music by Aloha Annie and DJ Idiot. Incidentals by Kevin MacLeod, Planet Blue. Theme by Robert Black.